Welcome back to the ISA Insider, everybody. My name is Max Tim.
And I am Shayna Weber. And the top headline this week of May 16th, 2022 is all about the Cannes Film Festival. It is starting again May 17th, and it's running through May 28th in the Riviera of France, which is just beautiful.
It always had that feeling, because it always happens in May, and it always added to this feeling of summer is starting. Because you know, you and I both have been working in the industry for so long. It always had that, ooh, summer's coming. It always felt the same way when the Masters come on in April. It's like, oh, spring's here. Shayna knows exactly what I'm talking about.
Nope, I don't know.
But
yeah, that is true. It's sort of like this marker of like summer is beginning in terms of at least our world.
And it's happening again, and people are actually going, and it's live. And so you could argue this is our good news of the week, also because of a little piece of news that Shayna can share.
Yes. So big shout out to my friend Ruby Challenger, who is at Cannes right now. Her short film, Mum Life, is part of the La Cinef selection, which is all about student filmmakers around the world. And she was, I believe, one of 16 films in that selection, which is amazing.
Really cool.
So we're super excited for her. Her film is this wonderful musical. It's a musical about becoming a mom and the anxiety that comes with, having a baby. And it is, you kind of go, wait, did those things go together? But she really nailed it. It is really, really great. I watched it and I think I teared up a little bit. I felt
what
it.
I hear, anxiety and motherhood go hand in hand.
Yeah. But this is like postpartum anxiety about when you look back on it later and you're like, wow, that's ridiculous. Not ridiculous, but like the things that you have anxiety about are not the normal things that you should have anxiety about necessarily.
Oh, right.
So it's just about everything being heightened to a level of you're just sort of in a panic about walking into a store or your kid crying in the car. It's like that level of like, but then she adds this wonderful original music in it and songs, and it's just glorious. So
very cool.
We are sending our best wishes to Ruby, who's there with her 2 kids. She just had a baby.
Is her last name really Challenger?
Yes. Well, that's her husband's. Yes, that's her married name. So her
coolest last name ever. Are you kidding me?
I know. Well, she's a cool chick. So we're linking an article about her here. That's sort of what we wanted to talk about with Cannes in terms of this is a place not only for these like huge top movies that are going to premiere there, like Top Gun and Elvis, but also for filmmakers who are starting out, who are lucky enough or talented enough or both to get into Cannes and show up and sell yourself. And so what we wanted to talk about a little bit was, any opportunity that you get as a filmmaker to highlight yourself, to promote yourself, to network, you should be taking those opportunities because you just never know who you're going to meet. And the great thing about Cannes is it's all industry. Like it's not for the public. It's just, it's industry people. So Ruby's already ready to go with her next project that she's doing, which is an amazing project in itself.
It's a huge deal. It's one of the small number of film festivals where real sales happen. And not every film festival you're going to have some kind of a bidding war for a project. And I think that's one thing for everyone out there to remember, because I'm sure most of you already know this, is that a festival like the Cannes Film Festival is beyond just the glitz and glamour, which most of us see, the beautiful people on the red carpet and the parties and everything, which is very exclusive. And yes, that's very cool, but that's not really the true reason why everyone goes. It's because it's a business. And this is a real opportunity for the filmmakers to go not only sell themselves and network, but to also sell their projects with it. So it's going to be interesting to see what gets purchased and what happens. It's fun.
We have some skin in the game for Ruby, and we're just hoping that she does really well.
Yeah, congrats to Ruby. But that's our top headline. So if you want to find out anything more about the Cannes Film Festival, you can go to, obviously, the ISA Insider. You can read the article that we're going to be posting here in the link.
And I'm sure some weird movie like Titane from last year will come out of it, and we'll be like, what is happening?
Yeah.
Because they're not all good, but they all are
Artistic.
unique and yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. That's the top headline. Well, let's move into this week in ISA Insider. Our first one we have written by our wonderful industry friend, Penn Densham, the most wonderful man you're ever going to meet. He's been on a few of our events, a guest panelist and things. He wrote this fantastic article, and you can hear my Chicago accent come out when I say fantastic, titled Screenwriters Guide to Success. And honestly, for an article that you could find on our ISA Insider, he's right. Like it's chock full of a ton of information. It's very inspirational. He talks about what he did and how he went through the process of making Robin Hood. We could probably stop on every paragraph and go, I like what he said about this, I like what he said about that. But was there anything that popped up that you noticed, Shana, that you just kind of wanted to throw out there?
The thing I wanted to say about Penn, because I've seen him speak a couple times with ISA, and honestly, Robin Hood is one of my favorite movies. It was just one of those movies that sort of hit me on all levels in terms of like, this is what I want to do. When I first saw him speak to ISA, I think I got a little choked up just because he's so motivational in terms of like, just stick with it and keep learning and keep doing. It's like, write the things that you love and do the work.
Yeah.
That's kind of like what it's all about. And he's just such a wonderful human and so encouraging that it's hard to not read this article or see him speak and not feel inspired.
And it's also because he goes beyond just the great motivation and inspiration. He actually goes into things like research your buyer. You want to show your passion. Here's how, explain things to the buyer. So he goes into the pitching process. He talks about behind the scenes, why they decided to go with Morgan Freeman's company for Robin Hood as opposed to a major studio, because they had a huge offer with a ton of money from a major studio, and they decided to go with a smaller company. So definitely worth the time and worth the read.
And Morgan Freeman in Robin Hood was so great.
Yeah.
That little girl goes, "Did God paint you?" I love that line.
Yeah, Robin Hood was a good one. Gosh, that was a while ago. If you really think about it, that was what, like mid to late 90s?
It was like 95-ish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
With a great soundtrack. If you want a good writing soundtrack, that is a great soundtrack to use, because it's like this great anthemic music.
Maybe that's a good little topic. We'll put out every week another new or great example of a writing soundtrack. Because you're right. When I write, which I haven't in a while, and I've been feeling down about that mainly today, I read the soundtracks, I listen to the soundtracks, and it really is inspirational. It just puts your brain into a different spot. Although it is kind of funny that I found myself in the past, like trying to write this really, like happy-go-lucky, funny scene, and you've got like Braveheart music in the background, and sometimes it doesn't really match.
I think you have to match the tone of what you're writing, because sometimes if you're listening to something dark and you're writing a rom-com, it probably won't really flow so well. But if you're writing a big action adventure book or movie or show, the Robin Hood soundtrack is amazing.
All right, there you go. Well, moving on to Shana's next favorite movie, Avatar. I'm joking. She didn't really love it.
I don't really like it.
She didn't really love it. Everybody to each their own. I enjoyed it. I didn't think it was the greatest thing ever. It's completely blown my mind that it's made over $1 billion, but it's just because it's a visual spectacle. It's James Cameron. But we have an article written by Michael Hauge, who is a longtime consultant, probably the best, or at least one of the best consultants in the industry. He's been doing this for a really long time, really knows his stuff. I learned a ton from him, and you can find this under ISA articles, 12 Powerful Principles of Story Structure. So, and Shana, you mentioned something really positive in terms of when you're reading through articles like this, where it's getting into such templated approaches or formulaic approaches that it can become overwhelming a little bit.
Yes, I was saying that because just reading through this article myself, I was overwhelmed with, oh my God, do I need to go back and start over my script, because I'm not sure I have all these things. So I think that these are all good things to try to remember, maybe make a little cheat sheet of like little things to look for in each of your scenes to make sure that everything's there. But don't feel like, oh my God, if I don't have every single one of these, I'm a failure. And, we all just need to settle down a little bit. But these are great things like give the audience superior position. Those are just great things to think about in terms of providing the reader and the audience with information that some of the characters don't have yet. That's an interesting sort of perspective to think about when you're writing something of like, oh yeah, who knows? who has this information and how is it pushing the character forward, the story forward, anything like that. So.
And little things like that, like an easy way for me to remember that idea of give the audience superior position. When I hear a term like that, it does sound a little overwhelming. It's like, well, what the heck does that mean? I derived a little unwritten rule for myself when I'm working through any story, is that I don't allow myself as the writer to involve the main character in every single scene. I have to figure out a way to not do that, which I know sounds kind of silly. It's like, well, of course the main character did. But you'd be surprised how many scripts we read, much less some of the scripts you might have written in the past where you're like, oh my gosh, yeah, the main character is in every single scene. It's hard for you to give the audience a superior position if the main character is in every single scene.
Yeah. See, there are things that you can like look at and then go, okay, and pull a little nugget out of and remember from your own self, like what in a little tip.
Very worthwhile read of an article. I've said it a number of times. Structure, I think, is the only thing in screenwriting that can be memorized and just used over and over again. Just do your best to remember how structure works, generally speaking, because in a movie like Avatar, and we're going to talk about what we've been watching lately, Uncharted or The Lost City with Sandra Bullock and Channing Tatum, it's extremely formulaic. Those are popcorn crowd pleasers, but in the smaller, lower concept movies, you don't have to follow structure in a perfect way, but you do need to at least remember the basic approach, because there's always a level of audience expectation.
Especially on the lower level stuff, like every scene has to count.
Yeah.
Or else why is it there and you're wasting money?
Yeah. So that's this week in ISA Insider. There is a lot more on the ISA Insider that you could read. We just pointed those two out because I think they're the most educational, and they're right up front and center when you go to the ISA Insider. You don't have to dig too deep. What we're watching. So you mentioned the Essex Serpent. I have not even heard of this.
So I was going through all the streamers last night trying to figure out what I wanted to watch and couldn't really find anything that I wanted to watch. And so I came upon this new series that just started. So it's only one episode in, with Claire Danes and Tom Hiddleston. It's called The Essex Serpent. Yes, I love them both. And I was like, okay, not sure this is what I'm going to love, but I'm going to try it out for the sake of ISA Insider news. I was like, I need to watch something that's like new. So it's basically a story about Claire Danes is a newly widowed woman who is more science-based, I guess you would say, instead of religious-based. And she comes across this story about this possible serpent of Essex that is causing havoc in this town of Essex. And so she travels out there and meets Tom Hiddleston, who is a vicar. And obviously they're two very good looking human beings. So, I'm sure like romance is going to happen or something's going to happen.
This is in England.
Chemistry. Yes.
Yeah.
And I would have to say this, the pilot did not blow me away. And so for me, it brought to the surface, how do projects like this attract people like Claire Danes and Tom Hiddleston?
Yeah.
And I don't know the answer, but I will say this, the costuming in the show is amazing. And Claire Danes wears the most epic knitwear I've ever seen in my life.
Is it period?
Yes, it's period, but the clothing feels very, it's really, you just look at it for the clothes, for Claire Danes outfits. And it's like, wow.
What would you say the genre is? Just romantic drama, or is there like a science fiction?
No, it's supposed to be like sort of like a mystery. I think it's sort of like a historical mystery.
Okay.
I wouldn't say romance is at the top of it, but I think they have a chemistry between them.
Sure.
That is going to come out. And then I think it's a story of sort of religion versus science.
Got it.
Because it's taking the idea of this serpent, which is in religion, sort of the devil. Tom Hiddleston is in the church, and she's not church, she's anti-church. So it's kind of those themes.
Sure.
So we'll see. I think I'm going to watch another one and see how it goes.
Yeah.
But then I also watched, on the flip side of that, and we're talking about formula, I watched I Want You Back on Amazon Prime, and I loved it. It's Charlie Day and Jenny Slate. And they're just like, I know, two exes who want to get their people back. And so they form together to break them up. And very formulaic, but it totally worked. I think they're both so talented and wonderful. And I love that they were the leads in this movie. And
it is so hard for me to choose anything to watch.
I know.
Oh gosh, it's like there's a total commitment, because you've got really, if you're going to watch a movie, I technically watched 2 last night just because I started kind of early. You've got one movie you can watch in one night, so it's like I want to spend my night enjoying what I'm watching, and so you never know what you're going to get. But most of the time, there's something positive to take out of and away from what you want. Those are 2 that I'm going to take a recommendation. Yeah.
What did you watch?
So I watched a ton. I binged all of Severance on Apple TV.
Okay.
We'll talk about that in a second. And then I also watched the pilot to Yellowstone. And then I watched the movies, The Lost City and Uncharted. And Severance, really cool and interesting, really strange. The 2 final episodes of the season are kind of the only 2 worth watching. But of course, you won't know what's going on if you don't watch the prior 6. And most of the time, you don't know what's going on anyway. And you keep trying to figure this out, like what's happening. And so it felt like art for art's sake at sometimes, because every now and then, but then they threw the science fiction idea in there, and how people can kind of basically sever themselves, and they don't know who they are when they're at work. They just are their work selves. But then when they leave work, they go home and they don't remember or know anything about what happened while they're at work. And so it's an interesting concept. They made it a little bit more dramatic, and I thought still really cool. I think Adam Scott's awesome. As far as The Lost City and Uncharted, it was funny because I felt oddly inspired, even though both movies were just kind of like,
fun.
It's just, The Lost City was much more fun than Uncharted because the comedy was so much stronger than Uncharted. It's based on a PlayStation video game.
Yeah, I know.
And Tom Holland and Mark Wahlberg, and it was fun, pretty predictable in some ways. I mean, they had some nice little character stuff that they threw in. And it's like, all right, but the comedy they were forcing some lines. The Lost City was really funny, but also even that much more predictable. And like you and I were chatting before this, there just didn't seem to be really any character involvement, at least in terms of us really, wanting something out of them, or, big change. We could see everything was up front and center. They weren't trying.
Yeah. I wanted it kind of wrapped up a little bit better and give me something at the end.
I mean, I will say, this is coming from a straight man, but anytime Channing Tatum takes his shirt off, I'm like, what the hell is going on here? Like, I don't know how you can get into that. I think that's his appeal.
I know.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I don't know how you can get into that kind of shape. That has to cost money.
Well, I'm not attracted to him either, but then when he does that stuff, it's like you kind of go, you lose all sort of gender, and you're just like, wait, what is happening?
It's otherworldly how it just chiseled the guy is. Yeah. So that's what we're watching.
Yeah. Tell us what you're watching.
Yeah.
Oh.
But still another reminder, Thursday, May 19th. That's this week.
This week, Thursday, May 19th at 5 p.m. is our ISA virtual pitch panel. We have amazing panelists who are industry executives who are currently looking for projects. And we have 5 pitches, 2 from our Fast Track Fellows, this iteration of Fast Track, and 3 pitch winners who actually sent in their 90-second pitches and made the top 3. And they're all going to be great. So go to our events page and make sure you register so that you guys can watch pitches happen live and get feedback immediately, and just sort of learn and watch how it's done and how to improve.
Yeah, we have our next segment is talking about resources, and we're going to talk about Twitter Sphere, but this is a nice little segue in terms of resources, because I also have a webinar next week where I'm going to be talking about character archetypes and how to brainstorm from there. But I think it's important to note that even though we're saying this event on the 15th, it's a pitch panel, et cetera, but like you're saying, Shana, that it's a resource for everyone watching. Like, you're going to learn something from this and hopefully enjoy yourself. But every event in the industry ultimately is educational, and it's a resource for you. So hopefully you take advantage of those things. But my webinar is on the 25th. I'm also throwing out some Story Farm summer discounts for my consulting and one-on-one personal coaching. I do this every year. I throw some summer discounts out there. And with the way inflation's going right now, maybe it's not a bad idea to bring things back down. But you can email me at max@thestoryfarm.org. But let's talk about what's happening on Twitter. Some interesting questions here.
Okay, so the thing I've noticed on Twitter the last week is there's this sort of thing going around where screenwriters and filmmakers are tired of hearing somebody say, just go make a film. Like, don't do this, don't do that. Just go make a film already, because that'll be your calling card. And the outrage that has happened from this comment is, it's not wrong. I'm not going to say it's wrong, but it's like people are just going in deep. So that thread is amazing. And I've been reading the comments of what people are saying, and I totally agree. I think, yeah, sure, go make a film. That's a really easy thing to say. Sure, just go make a film. Just go do it. Go do your project. Use your iPhone. It's fine. Just use that. If you don't have a really good product, if you don't have a really good film, it's not going to help you.
Right.
So sure, go out and make your really good film. Go find some money and go make your really awesome film. There you go.
Yeah, it is one of those things way easier said than done. And I've heard people say it in person, to someone else when I'm standing nearby. And usually it's because that person doesn't really want to continue talking to that person anymore. Just go make your film. That's all you have to do. But also, like you're saying, and a lot of people on Twitter are saying, it is true. You should consider doing that. But I think it's emphasis on consider, like how do I do that? And that's when you start taking classes, or you start talking to people, or you work on the script to make sure there are so many things that come into play. Even if you're going to try to do it for literally $2,000 or something, that those $2,000 have to be spent the right way, and you have to know what you're doing. So it could go both ways. Yeah.
I mean, I think the key is this. If you are asking questions about this and you find people who are asking questions about this, why don't you get together and then pool your resources and then reach out to another person who's going, how do I make a film? I'm good at this. And then find another person. And then guess what? You have a whole group of people who know a whole bunch of people. That's how you do it.
The term "just go make a film" is covering up the fact that it could take you 4 years.
Yeah.
That's just the truth of it. But then Twitter option 2, how do you rewrite? Huge question and topic, but what are they saying?
Well, a lot of people have different things to say. And a lot of people said that they have to print out the script and then go through it and cut that way on paper, which to me, that would be how I would do a rewrite. I guess I do rewrites, but I tend to go back after each act and like work on it. So it's not as my brain just can't compute like a whole script. But then when it's done and you are going back, there's for me less work. But yes, I print out the copy, go through each section and just viscerally, just like what isn't reading, do a table read. Hear it out loud, play it out loud. Those are some of the things.
If you do a table read, make sure you get actors who are good, though, because if you get bad actors, suddenly you think the entire script is terrible, and it really probably isn't.
That is true, but also if your actors can't say the lines,
for sure,
even if they're bad, then you got to think about, well, that didn't work. Well, that didn't work. But yes, agreed. At least adequate. How
do you rewrite it? It's a huge question. I think following through that Twitter thread is going to help you because they talk about more things than just what we're mentioning here.
Yeah.
I'm overly organized, and I have a list of rewrite objectives. That's what I call them. But those objectives are coming from the notes I've received from the people that have read it. And I then put the patterns together. If everybody's commenting on this, second lead in the movie is this or this or this, and I've gotten like 3 or 4 notes on that, then I have to put that in the list. This is what I have to look at and change. And then I start with character changes before I ever get into any kind of structural changes, meaning actually moving scenes around. If you start making the changes in the script itself, like I'm going to copy and paste this scene, put it here, I'm going to delete that, and you're going to end up either having like 19 different file versions of your final draft document, or it's just going to be too overwhelming to remember where you are. So I have to do everything separately on a separate document so I can see it. And then I go in, and, sometimes I've actually, because the rewrite was so big, I just retyped the movie and made the changes as I went, because I'm like, it feels like it's 100% rewrite. So I'm just going to do some notes first, and then just rewrite and retype the things as opposed to copy and paste, because it feels like you're getting into the mode of rewriting. But yeah, it's a daunting task, and everybody has to do it. Don't try to not rewrite.
That's 3/4 of the job.
Yeah.
Rewrite after rewrite after rewrite after rewrite.
You should be following those hashtags. Just look for screenwriting. Honestly, I think I think it was trending over the last week or something, like something in the screenwriting community was trending, and everybody was like, yeah, they were celebrating about it. There's a huge group on Twitter. Moving to good news of the week, I first want to ask, did you notice what this says, Shannon?
Yes, Josie's on a vacation far away.
What's the name of the band and the song?
Now I lost it. I can sing it in my head.
Right. Everybody can Google
a little
it.
bit older. I'm gonna lose your love.
Hey, you said
tonight.
it. You said the name of the song.
Is it Cutting Crew?
Nope.
Oh.
But the name of the song is Your Love. And
It's something baseball-y.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. I don't know. What is it?
Oh, I feel like you're going to get it. The Outfield.
Ah!
Yeah.
Damn it.
I don't know why. There's no reference. I just thought it was kind of funny. It's a new shirt that I got.
I like it. I was going to ask you about that by the time we got to the end. So, all right. So good news of the week. This one's really funny.
Yeah. I just chose a couple, oddly ridiculous good news of the week, but they are good news. We have a mosquito forecaster, off-cast mosquito forecast that you can type your zip code in, and it'll tell you the next 5 or 6 days, I think, of what the mosquito forecast is in your area, which I think is brilliant now that we're getting.
Hold on, I'm doing it.
It's brought by SC Johnson because they make the off-brand. I think it's kind of genius marketing because they also, like, as you scroll down, when you do your forecast, they go look at all the different off mosquito repellents you can buy, and you're like, great.
So question, because every day this next week for me is high.
Ooh.
Is it always high for everywhere, or are they just trying to sell you repellent, or is it great?
No, because in Wisconsin, which is surprising, May 16th through the 19th, it's a low mosquito count.
Oh, every day here is high this week.
Really? Wow. California, Southern California. Yeah. And then I only have medium through the weekend.
Just for fun, go check it out. And then maybe you'll save yourself some mosquito bites.
You can plan ahead. I think it's genius. I really do think it's amazing.
It is really great.
So that's one funny little bit of good news. The last one I think is so great. This isn't necessarily good news of the week. I mean, there's definitely positive connotations here. But one man's treasure hunt thrilled a Canadian town, turning strangers into friends. This is so much fun. This person created like a fake name for himself, put it on Facebook, and started talking about hints as to where $100 bills were hidden in their 17,000 populated, town. And over the course of most of May so far, and I think it's over, up to Friday the 13th, people were going out and trying to find these little $100 bills. But it was based on, the town in question, Miramichi in New Brunswick, Canada, has a history replete with scary stories of murder and ghosts, which the hunt's organizer used as context to keep the spooky search going. What a great way to spend $1,000.
I love that.
If you've got some money to spend, come up with some excellent places to hide some money in your town, get people out there looking for it. Everybody had a blast.
It's literally like a grown-up version of an Easter egg hunt.
It is.
Yeah. It's great. I love that stuff.
Yeah, because there was the story of Mr. Dungarvan. He was apparently a descendant of this of a 19th century Irish cook who lived in the town. Robbed, murdered, and buried in a shallow grave in the woods. The local legend of this man's death was that on that night, the entire forest was filled with terrifying noises described as whoops that sent the culprits running for their lives, leaving a tale of the Dungarvan whooper in their frightened wake. So he specifically took a story from his own hometown that everybody already knew about, and then created a little story around it and had some fun. I think it's awesome.
Awesome. More people do that. It's fun.
Yeah, I might just have to do that myself. My town
I
lived in. We were the
You
circuit capital of the country in like the middle of the 1800s, which is scary.
You should add it to your one of your writers' retreats.
That's not a bad idea. I will think about that. Scott might.
And I will accept a commission.
Great. I don't know who's paying us, but okay. That's the news for the week, everybody. Some good news to end it off. Stay away from mosquitoes. You could look at the forecaster. Lots of things to look at the ISA Insider. And if you have any news of your own, success stories or something, share it in the comment section in the YouTube channel. If you're watching this through the pro tip section of the ISA website, jump over to YouTube, leave a comment.
And subscribe.
All right.
We'll see you guys next week.
See you next week.